microphone yet. I am Harris-Carr. Welcome to the PinkMission MQ Factory Summit. We are so super excited that you decided wherever else you could have been today, you wanted to show up here. We have a dynamic panel of just amazing women that are going to bring you a wealth of information today. We have 1 hour. We're going to talk about a lot of different things that may affect you. Just from a show of hands, really quickly, if you have personally been affected by breast cancer, raise your hand. Someone in your family, raise your hand. Someone you know, raise your hand. So, as you can see when you look around the room, breast cancer has or will affect each of us at some point in our lifetime. And today we want to talk to you about how to get ahead of things like early detection. What do you ask your doctors? Feel free to ask us questions. Many of us are clinicians. Many of us are survivors. I am a breast and ovarian cancer survivor myself. And so we come from a space of not only saying, hey, by the way, you should do this, and you need to get that mammogram. We come from a space of having lost our hair. We come from a space of having gone through chemo and radiation and having to tell your families about these diagnoses. So I'm going to introduce you to our panel for today. We're going to have some fun, and then we're going to open it up for you because we want to hear your direct questions. To the men in the room, can we give a round of applause to all the men in the room? I want to let you all know that what you hear today is equally as significant as what we sometimes think the ladies step into this space for. And so I want you guys to pay attention, listen. We have some bits of information for you as well. To all of the young kings and queens in the room, when I look around and I see all of you, I'm so very happy because it's equally as important that we are passing a wealth of knowledge to the next generation. So make sure that you're paying attention to some of the things that you hear today. I challenge every single young person in here. When you walk up to a woman today, ask her if she's had her mammogram. That's the challenge for the young people in the room today. All right? Let's get started with our panel. First up, I want to introduce you to Dr. Renee Quarterman, who's going to join me here. Clap like you're clapping for yourselves. Clap like you want the room to clap for you. Next up, we have Lakia Belcher, who is a thriver and advocate. Rasheena Phinisee, who is the founder of this booth directly behind the room, Asaya's Liver Fund, and also the Black Bodies podcast. Next up, we are going to say hello to Nicolle Surratte, who is a 12-year thriver and health coach. And next up, we are going to say hello to the amazing, who's giving me all kinds of side eyes right now, the amazing Dr. Nia Imani Bailey, who is a radiation therapist and the creator of A Letter to My Sister's documentary. If you have not already seen it, please make sure that you make it a point to see it. Please give these ladies a round of applause. So as we get started today, can you all hear me okay? As we get started today, one of the first questions that I want to pose, pardon me, I literally walked out of the room with my cell phone in my hand. So I'm gonna tuck that there and y'all gonna act like y'all never saw it. Okay? One of the first questions that I would like to pose to Dr. Quarterman is, Dr. Quarterman, can you please share with our room today the why we're here, and what the problem is to what brings us to conversations like this?
Sure. So hi, everybody. I'm glad that you're all here. I'm really happy to be here and a part of this inaugural event. So I think that the big problem that Black women with breast cancer face is that Black women do worse with breast cancer. We know that. That's a fact. Is this better? Okay. So I was saying that I think that the big problem with breast cancer for Black women is that Black women do worse. So we know that Black women are less likely to get breast cancer. The overall risk for breast cancer in a woman's lifetime is 12 to 13%, but for Black women, that risk is lower, like 8 to 9%. But Black women are 40% more likely to die of the disease compared to white women. So there are a lot of reasons why that is. We're knowing more and more about that. So I think it's quite important for us to have this conference today.
Thank you for that. The next question that I want to shift to the panel, and I want to hear from each of you that are seated between myself and Dr. Quarterman, because whether we've told someone or whether we've heard it personally, let's speak to what happens once you hear it's cancer. I have cancer, you have cancer, or someone else is telling you.
Hello, everyone. For me, it's actually Dr. Quarterman who told me that I had breast cancer. But that was after 4 or 5 months of being told that it was scar tissue, being told that I was wasting people's time trying to figure out what was wrong with me. So for me, it was a sense of relief, but then a real quick turnaround, I went to my husband and my kids. And what does my diagnosis mean for them?
I'm Rasheena, Phinisee. For me, the experience was a bit shocking. I didn't expect to hear cancer. I didn't even suspect cancer. I was breastfeeding at the time, my 7-month-old. So I assumed a clogged milk duct. So I'm like, hey, little tenderness there, maybe an infection. I go to the doctor and she's like, I want you to go to the breast center. So when I followed up with the breast center and you get you have dense breasts, and then it's we want to do an ultrasound, and then it's we need to do a biopsy, that's when the ensuing fear just starts to sit in. And I need to survive this because, like Dr. Quarterman says, Black women don't do as well as other ethnic backgrounds. So for me, it was, I have to make it past this point for my young kids.
Good afternoon. My experience hearing the word cancer was just a feeling of numbness. I received my diagnosis when I was getting ready to leave my office for the day. And after I heard the word, I can't tell you anything else that the doctor said on the phone, because everything in me went numb. My hands, my mind, my body felt like I was moving in slow motion. And when I got home, because I had to drive home, I knew that when I walked through the door, I was going to walk through a different woman than the person who left that morning. And walking through the door, the silence was so loud. Cancer. I had my crying, and then when I realized, okay, well, wait a minute, God got my attention, and he reminded me that all of the years that I spent on Separated Street and Divorce Drive, he brought me through all of that and provided everything that my children and I needed. So I realized at that point that there was purpose in my diagnosis, and my goal became living by any means necessary. And I'll say that I didn't ask God, why me? I asked, what was I to learn from this experience? And so I know that I'm on what I call my pink sea journey, is so that I can help somebody else who's either on it or help somebody else not even get on that path.
Thank you for that, ladies. Thank you for that. So this journey is so personal to each person that receives that diagnosis, how we process it, what we do next, and what we do after the next. But I want to fast forward the conversation to what do we do when you're simply just going to prepare for your mammogram? Because how many of you, I don't know what your schedules look like, but a lot of us have busy schedules. And tomorrow becomes next week, which becomes next month, which becomes 6 months later, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I need to go to the grocery store, I need to pay my cell phone bill, I need to pick up the kids from school, oh, and I need to schedule my mammogram.
And so I want to pose the next question to Dr. Bailey to speak to how we prepare for just getting our foot in the door to getting the tests and exams that we need.
Great question. I will speak from experience that may help some of you. So I know my family cancer history, although I do not have had or have breast cancer, but, oh, Father. What I was able to do was know my family cancer history. So my father had prostate cancer. Everybody in my family has breast, lung, multiple myeloma, etc. So I took that to my family doctor. She put that in a calculator that calculates your risk. And my percentage came out that I had a greater than 20% chance of getting breast cancer. So because of that, I was able to receive such screenings to see my risk, to determine my risk. So starting at 28 years old, which is vastly different from the standard of 40, I get a breast MRI and a 3D mammogram. Though there's no way for you to really prepare to get a mammogram because everybody says, it hurts, your breast is being squished, it's not comfortable at all. But it was very powerful for me to get that information to know if I have breast cancer or not. And I do know, because I'm being followed, that if they were able to determine that I had breast cancer, it would be at a low stage, which is better for prognosis. So I have a higher chance of living if it's caught at a low stage. So there's no really way to prepare, I would think, maybe mentally for a mammogram, just to know that you may receive an answer or a result. But it's very important to at least establish a patient-provider relationship and get that test done for yourself. So I would say know your family cancer history. If you don't, still go to your provider and let them know, hey, I feel something. Advocate for yourself to get it done. And that's it.
Microphone back down to Dr. Quarterman. And in knowing your family history, Dr. Quarterman, I'm going to ask you to speak a little bit to the importance and how one should seek genetic testing and what the significance of even having a baseline from genetic testing may provide, not only to an individual, but to a family.
Okay, so what I tell my patients is that almost every cell in your body has DNA, and that's the blueprint that's going to tell that cell what to do for its entire life. There's like 25,000 instructions in that blueprint. That's your DNA. And each instruction is a gene, and if there's an error in the instruction, that's a mutation. And some mutations have no effect on the cell. They can do all kinds of things. And one thing they can do is increase the chance that that cell will turn into a cancer. So we can do genetic testing to figure out if you have any of these mutations. And so what I tell all of my patients, and what I would tell all of you, is it's very important to know what your family cancer history is. So we're thinking breast, but it's not just the history of the females in your family. It's not just the history of your mom's side of the family. It is every person, every type of cancer. Get as specific as you can. If they say it was something in the pelvis, it was a lady cancer. If it was something in the stomach, we need to know the organ. Was it the stomach or was it the colon? Was it the uterus? Was it the ovary? Was it the cervix? And then what age was each person when they were diagnosed with that cancer? And keep that up to date. Ask it every year and share that information, because that information then can help us figure out if we should test you for a genetic mutation. So you can take it to an academic center, you can go online and look for your local genetic counseling, you can certainly take it to your primary care doctor. You can even go online and find a genetic testing company. They can find resources in your community. It's important to get tested or get assessed to see if you should get tested, because it's going to affect your health and then the health of your relatives.
Thank you for that information. I'm going to pose the next question to our thrivers. And if you can share with our audience one thing that you learned since your diagnosis that you would encourage someone else to do if they're facing cancer. What's one thing that you've learned in this journey? For me, I learned that it is okay to not be okay. I have OCD. All of my spices are alphabetized. My table is probably wiped every time I look at it. And during this process, I learned, so what if the allspice is with the oregano? Who cares? It's okay if somebody left their cup on the table. And those things sound small, but cancer changes your life so much that sometimes you think, what do I do in this process? And so if you ladies can speak to our audience and just give them one piece of advice there.
On myself, right? I needed to speak up and say what I needed as I'm going through this process. We are quick as men to, if our meal's not right, we'll send it back, right? If the steak is not cooked the way we want to, we'll send it back. But if we don't get what we need for our medical providers, if we get our questions answered, 9 times out of 10, we leave that space and we go cry in the car, or we'll cry to our friends, but we won't hold that doctor or that medical professional accountable for the information that we need in order to continue to live and to thrive. So my one advice is to ask questions and making sure that you are fully aware and understand before you leave that doctor's office.
Thank you. Beautifully said. Thank you. For me, it was cleaning up shop. When I say that in the sense of when you're going through cancer, you can't continue to pour into other people. You have to have people pour back into you. You are literally in survival mode. So friends, family, colleagues, if my needs could not be met in a way where it was healing for my journey, I kindly cut those relationships off. So going through chronic illness or terminal illness, for that matter, for some people, you have to create a sanctuary around you so that you can physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally thrive. When you are working to overcome something as challenging as cancer, and I was stage 3. At every stage, your journey will be different. Your experience will be different. And at stage 3, the aggressiveness of my treatment plan required that I focus wholeheartedly on that. And I needed people around me to support me in that. So my biggest advice would be for someone coming into a cancer diagnosis and the experience is to make sure that you build a healthy, supportive team around you.
And I'll kind of piggyback on that. If you are diagnosed with breast cancer, I would want you to understand from the outset that it's your journey. You need to do it your way. So if you are not ready to announce that you have a diagnosis, there's some people you just don't need to tell. I have worked with other survivors who said, I got diagnosed on Monday night, my phone is blowing up because my sister decided she was going to put it on social media, and I wasn't ready for that. So if you're not sure that somebody will abide by your wishes, don't tell them. It's your journey. You have to do it in ways that work for you, that feel right for you. There were members of my family that didn't know about the diagnosis until I was approaching my year anniversary. We hadn't spoken in about 5 years. I didn't want them to hear about my diagnosis and all of a sudden start blowing up my phone because I wasn't going to have a pity party. I let them know when I was ready on my terms. I decided early on, some people that needed to know, the prayer warriors at church, absolutely. Everybody else, I don't need you to know yet. So you have to do it in a way that feels right for you. And it's important to understand that the journey is not for everybody. There are people that I thought were going to be there for me, and they weren't. There were other people that, we were friends, and I knew that they would be there in some aspect. But they stepped up to the plate in ways that I could never imagine. So if you're expecting somebody to be there and they're not, you can't get bothered by that. You got to keep moving. Your journey, your health is what's at stake. So understand that it's not for everybody. Everybody can't handle it. And just kind of be okay with that. And just to tag on to what my sister said, when you find yourself having to cut some people off, we have to be mindful of those toxic environments. So I tell people, I don't want you to necessarily to stop loving them, but to consider loving them from a distance. Because this is a time that's about you. And you need what's best for you, mind, body, and soul.
Yes. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna stop for 1 second, and I have a challenge for the audience. How many of you have been to a concert of your favorite artist? And you got in that arena and you were screaming like you had won the Powerball? That's the energy that I need you to give us up here today, because we are giving you that very same energy. And so, how many of you went to Beyonce's concert? Okay. And so when you got ready for Beyonce's concert, you got cute, didn't you? And you walked in there and you sashayed in there like, I have arrived. Well, all of you have arrived, but we need to know that you have arrived. So we're going to practice our clapping. So when we applause for something, let me hear your applause for the day. Thank you. Thank you. Let's keep that applause at that level of excitement, shall we? That being said, I am going to pass the next question to Dr. Bailey as well, and I'm going to ask you to share with our audience the importance of breast self-exams and speak to when you hear you have dense breast. What do we do if we have dense breast? What does the ratio look like there?
Great question. So it's so important to know your body, know what your breasts feel like, look like. You want to know that monthly. You want to know what it looks like around your cycle, after your cycle, and continued. And you need to know how to feel your breast and to feel under your breast, because right here, that tail is called tail of Spence. That's your breast tissue too. So you also want to feel all around both sides. And it's important too that if you have a partner, that your partner know what your breasts feel like too. Because I've heard a lot of patients say, I didn't notice it, but my partner did. So that's so important. Lay on your back, put one up, do it in the shower, things like that is so important. When you look at your breast, typically one breast is just a little bit bigger than the other. Right. Your right side is that what you said? Mine too. But if it's drastically bigger, that's an issue. Look, if your nipple is inverted, so it's this way instead of out way, you need to get that checked out. If your areola looks like sort of like an orange peel, you need to get that checked out. These are the type of things that you need to look for. And that dense breast, it just means the doctor can't determine whether you have cancer or not. So I know a lot of people say, think about this picture. So it's a clear day, no clouds. You don't have dense breast. But if there's clouds in that sky, that's what it looks like. And you can't see the sun when it's clouds, and that's what they're telling you. So if a doctor says to you, you have dense breasts, don't say, okay, thank you, goodbye. They then need to do another test to determine if you have something or not. So I knew my family cancer history. In the beginning, I got an ultrasound on my breast. They said, you have dense breasts. I said, thank you, I need another scan. They gave me a 3D mammogram. They said, you have dense breasts. I said, thank you, I need another scan. They fought me on the MRI, but this is when we talk about advocacy, because I said, I'm not going anywhere, so you gotta do something. And sometimes insurance doesn't cover it. But what did I do? I love to get my nails done and my hair done, but I didn't do it for a little bit. I had a hat on, kept my nails short and saved that money to get the MRI. So sometimes you gotta sacrifice just a little bit of what we love to do to determine our health. So I did that, got the breast MRI, and although they did say I have dense breasts, which I do, they were able to clearly determine that I do not have anything. So it's very important that if you're told that you have dense breasts, to push further. Now, this phenomenal bad mamma jamma, Dr. Quarterman, she gonna already do that. But sometimes doctors, they're just telling you that. And it's not wrong to just tell you that, but it's good to advocate for yourself. You want them to be able to see a clear day, not just the cloud in the sky.
Excellent information. Thank you for that. I'm going to pass back down to Dr. Quarterman. And Dr. Quarterman, I would like you to share with our audience some of the most common types of breast cancer, and also if you can speak to what's going on in healthcare that is new, that are things maybe we can look forward to help with things like early detection.
Thank you. So your first question was types of breast cancer. Okay. So when we get a diagnosis of breast cancer, we always test the breast cancer cells for 3 proteins. And 2 of those proteins tell us if that cancer is growing by using a woman's own estrogen. And that's important because that type of breast cancer can be treated in part by anti-estrogen therapy. One of the other proteins also has a target that we can use for care. So you can have hormone receptor positive, hormone receptor negative, HER2 positive, HER2 negative breast cancer. There's one type of breast cancer called triple negative breast cancer, and that's the least frequent type. Only about 15% of breast cancers are triple negative. But that means that those breast cancer cells do not have any of those targets. And we know that that type of breast cancer tends to be more aggressive, and women tend to not do as well with that type of breast cancer. And for Black women, they are more likely to get this triple negative breast cancer. So that's where the subtyping comes in. In terms of mammograms, there's a lot of exciting change that's happening. So we were talking about the dense breasts and how that can be an issue to read your breast tissue. I would venture to guess that everyone in this room that's had mammograms is getting 3D mammograms. So that's like a CT scan of your breast. That has revolutionized reading breast tissue, and it was created because of the breast density question. So it's still important to know what your density is and to make sure that your breasts are examined to your satisfaction, but know that, at least in this part of the country, when you get your screening mammograms, 99% of the time, at least, you're getting the gold standard, the Cadillac, the 3D mammogram. But what's more exciting is that we're developing more imaging modalities that are more specific for breast and breast cancer, and we're incorporating artificial intelligence now. So there is breast MRI, but they're also developing functional mammograms. So they are looking at injecting contrast into your bloodstream, and that will go to your breasts in such a pattern that if there's a breast cancer, it's going to light up in a different way. So that's coming. Artificial intelligence is already here. So you hear about it for lots of things. They've been trying it for mammogram for a few years. And the group that I work with in Delaware actually uses it. So women get their screening mammogram, and for an extra $40 at this point, artificial intelligence will be layered on top of the mammogram, and it is increasing cancer detection rates, and I'm definitely recommending it for a lot of my women, including my Black women and my other women who have an elevated breast cancer risk for whatever reason.
Thank you for that information, Dr. Quarterman. That is exciting because so many times we invest in the research of breast cancer and we have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And so when you see innovations like this and you see new options becoming available, that is a direct result of the things that go on behind the scenes to say, how do we make this better? How do we rip the page and hit the mark here more significantly? I'm going to pose a question to Dr. Bailey again, but before I do that, I'm going to go back down to Lakia, and I want each of us, I'm actually going to go all the way back down to Dr. Quarterman, and I want each of us to share our age at diagnosis, or the youngest patient you have encountered with a breast cancer diagnosis. The purpose of this question, and I want all of the audience to pay attention here, because I'm going to talk about our dynamic vendors that are in the room at some point today. But this table here to my left, Beautiful Faces Foundation, is my foundation that I birthed during my own cancer treatment. I specifically took information off of my table today that advises people to wait until they're 40 or 45 years old to consider having a mammogram at that point. And so I want you all to hear that, and then I'm going to pose a second question to Dr. Bailey.
So I'll just add, in terms of mammograms, that you have to have a specific reason to start your mammograms before age 40. So Dr. Bailey talked about her breast cancer risk. Every woman 35 and older should have her breast cancer risk calculated. So that is something that doctors can do. You get a number, and it helps us determine, should you start screening at 35? Should you get screened twice a year? Should you have MRI, et cetera? So you definitely need a reason to start screening early. That's another reason why you want to know what your family history is. In my personal experience, the youngest patient that I've seen with breast cancer, I just did her surgery last week, she was 28.
I was 38, 38 with my initial diagnosis.
I was 36. 45.
The youngest patient I treated was 18.
And I was also 36 when I was diagnosed. And so, as you can see, this is significant enough to pay attention at younger ages. At one point, one of the things I want to speak to, and I certainly don't want to exclude other races and cultures represented here today, but I want to speak specifically to our Black people in the room for a moment. Culturally, Two things that we traditionally don't talk about at our tables are health care and money. And we need to change that perspective. Why aren't we talking about how to live healthy lives? Why aren't we talking about things like teaching our daughters? I was just having a conversation with a young lady who was standing here before we got started, and I told her, I want you to pay attention to everything that's going on today, because we're under this exclusive hush agreement. We can get on the internet and we can find out who Sheila's neighbor's brother was dating that she had no business being out with, but we won't be transparent enough to tell someone, I have cancer. Why not? And so until we start to share these stories, we're limiting ourselves. We're here, all of us seated here, all of these women to my right, we're here because we boldly share our stories. We share the stories that we have permission to share of others, not because we want to be in anyone's business, but because we care about saving lives. That's something I want you to think about. Dr. Bailey, I'm going to ask you to speak to your documentary, A Letter to My Sisters. What motivated you to provide such a dynamic platform and the ages of the women that are included in this project?
I created the documentary because I was seeing a lot of young women being treated with radiation. So one of the youngest I mentioned was 18, but the one woman, she was 24 years old. She looked just like me, had box braids, gold anklet. I'm from West Philly. I love Meek Mill. Don't know if I should mention that, but I do. And she did too. And we really connected, we bonded, and she passed away. And I'm like, what's going on? I never knew that, we were the same age too, that I could have breast cancer, she had breast cancer. But it wasn't until my friend Jacqueline, who Miss Nicolle met, she was diagnosed at the age of 32, and she passed at 33. And I said, you know what, we really need to get ahead of this, because breast cancer does not have to be a death sentence. You can live and be phenomenal and look crazy beautiful like these three thrivers up here, right? Give it up. So I wanted to interview these women because I said, if I read another book, I'm not a reader, so don't judge me. I don't like PowerPoints that much, sorry, but I can watch a good movie and a good documentary, so that's why I wrote the documentary. So the first woman, her name is Janique Rivera, now McGriff, because she's married. She's literally Jamaican, Chinese, and Puerto Rican, and she was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer at the age of 29 years old. And she really promoted advocacy, just like this bad lady over here, because she kept saying there's something wrong with my breast, and nobody would hear her. And Janique don't play. I think she's from Compton or something. She said, I will pull out my breast and y'all gonna do something. And they did, and she had stage 2 breast cancer. When she was in the chemo suite getting her chemo, she said, I don't think it's working. I think it's growing. And they said, no, it's not. I told you, Janique's from Compton, I think. She said, I'm not getting it. They did a scan, the cancer was growing. So this points to not only advocacy, but knowing your body, okay? So she finished all that. The disease unfortunately spread to her lung, 12-centimeter mass to her lung. Unfortunately spread to her brain, 6 centimeters in her brain. But let me tell you, I just told you it's not a death sentence. It doesn't have to be. She has 3 children now, and she's married and living her best life, okay? I just saw her yesterday. She looks beautiful, beautiful. The second woman, her name is Brenda Durantes. She's a strong Mexican woman. She was diagnosed in her 30s. And she told me straight up, Mexican women don't get breast cancer. I said, oh, maybe we should all move to Mexico. I didn't know that. But obviously it's not true. But she said she really had to focus on herself, because being a woman, she had to take care of her husband, her children, this, that, and the third, cook. And she finally said, I had to focus on me. So she tells her story in Spanish, but English subtitles are provided. And the last woman, her name is Lynn Mitchell. She was diagnosed when she was 41 years old. She's German, Irish, and Swedish. And she tells her story about being a single mom. She said, I didn't have time for this. I barely made ends meet. I'm tired. I just didn't have time. But guess what? She had to make time. And she not only had to make time for herself, but because she was a single mom, she wanted to be there for her children. So the point of the documentary is breast cancer does not discriminate. It don't matter if you live in West Philly or North Philly. It don't matter if you speak Chinese, Arabic, something. It don't matter. You know what I mean? And just to really know your body, like look at it, feel it. It's so important because the idea is we want to save lives, right? We want to eventually be at a point where if breast cancer is not eradicated, maybe it's at a chronic disease point, so you don't want to be diagnosed with it, but you can sort of live with it. So let's keep having these talks, and it's just important to have those conversations. So that's why I created it. I don't even know if I answered your question. But.
You absolutely did. You absolutely did. One of the important things to those of you, just from a show of hands again, if you have been affected by breast cancer either personally or in your family, raise your hand. And so one of the things that happens, I don't know how many of you saw the promo, the amazing promo videos of these wonderful ladies leading into this event today. It's posted. I mean, go share it with everybody. You know how we share those funny things? See, I'm an old lady, and I have a 24-year-old, and she told me I'm too old for TikTok. But she sends me TikTok videos continually. So go and watch the promo videos. We share just as much information in those videos as we prepared for today, leading into today. That being said, Rasheena and I were here on the same day for our video, and her energy and the conversations that we had was just dynamic. This becomes a sisterhood because from the moment you hear you have cancer, you enter a battle with yourself to live. You will hear me say that if you watched my promo video, which was the last one to be posted. So imagine feeling like you are fighting yourself to live and your body is fighting against you, but your willpower is saying, oh no, cancer's not gonna get me. I was mad. I didn't cry when I got my diagnosis. I was mad as hell. I was angry. Like, oh no, no. You know how somebody comes to the cookout that wasn't invited? We don't have enough food for you? I was like, no space here for this. And so that being said, Rasheena and I had a conversation about the will to live. And today, I met Lakia for the first time, and we had a conversation about the will to live. And I think of this panel, Nicolle is probably the one person here that I haven't had an in-depth conversation with yet. But we prayed this morning. We had a prayer circle before we got started about what we wanted to gain out of this day. And so, Rasheena, I'm passing this microphone down to you, and then I'm going to ask you to pass it to the sisters on the both sides of you. And I want you ladies to talk about that mindset of how we live, because that's where the real thriving comes from. When you hear thriver, this is more than a pink ribbon. It's more than the beautiful balloons that you see displayed. It's more than the paraphernalia that you might pick up and put something on your car. You might have a pink ribbon hat. It's so much deeper than that.
Thank you. Whew. The will to live, right? When my diagnosis came, when you get that diagnosis, it never leaves you. You can finish cancer treatments and declared clear, but every day in the back of your mind, that thought lives with you, what if it comes back, right? We have people who survive cancer multiple times. And what I found in my day-to-day experience as a thriver is not letting that fear drive me, living my life unapologetically as myself, pursuing those small dreams, big dreams, whatever it is that I want to accomplish in this lifetime, but also using my experience and my journey to transform the lives of others. I cannot stress how important early detection it is. We can sit here all day and say get mammograms, but if you don't go get that mammogram and you wait until it's too late, you'll be sitting in the seat that I was with stage 3 cancer. Stage 3 cancer looked like 23 rounds of chemotherapy, 25 rounds of radiation with third-degree burns, muscle fibrosis and chronic pain that you live with. But no one has to see me and see that struggle, right? When I show up with a smile on my face. I show up enthusiastic about life. I show up with the desire to connect with people on a much deeper level, because you, in general conversation, will say to someone, how you doing today? But are you really interested? I'm really interested. So when I say to someone, how are you doing? How are you feeling? I know that life can hit hard. I've seen it not just in a cancer diagnosis, but also in a double liver transplant with my daughter from birth through 5 years old. So having those experiences, engaging the medical system constantly and persistently, it put me in a place with the type of knowledge and information that I have. When I say, how you doing? I'm asking because if I have a jewel that I can offer that can transform your life in the way that it has transformed mine, I want to share that. So thriving is waking up every day and using the tools and resources that I've gathered and learned along the way and sharing that in my everyday experiences. I just want to say thank you for the opportunities later. It is an honor to sit next to each and every one of you today, to share this information and to share my own unique journey, because it's impactful and it's going to somebody in this room today, I'm telling you, and you may not even think of it or know it right now, but you're going to be touched in a way to where the things that you take away from today, whether it's yourself or someone that you love, you're going to transform their lives just from being here in this moment. So thank you.
So for me, you had stage 3. I'm living with stage 4. So my cancer went from a stage 1 conversation. I had a metastatic diagnosis was where we ultimately ended up. So we went from having a treatment plan of having a mastectomy and chemotherapy and radiology to those aren't going to save your life. So that's not going to be your plan. So I take my medicines daily. I'm living with metastatic cancer for the duration. And this is what stage 4 looks like. When you see me, you don't see my cancer. I'm hoping that when you see me, you see the God in me. You see the fierce warrior, because I have so much to live for. I have a young daughter who's 8. I have a son who just turned 11. I have a lovely husband who has been with me through the onset of this fight in 2020. I have amazing women in my life who will direct my traffic to make sure I'm healthy and I'm whole. And what I choose to do, because I refuse to let cancer steal my joy, is to share my story and to make you think like, oh my gosh, she has stage 4. Yes, sure do. And what we gonna do about it? That part. I'm charged with living intentionally. So I'm very careful about how I spend my time. I'm very thoughtful with who I choose to spend my time with and what I choose to lend my energy towards. So I advocate strong and heavy, and I come on thick because I know what happens if you keep your mouth closed. So for me, when you think about postponing that mammogram or postponing that checkup or not going to follow up on something your good doctors say to you to do, please see my face. Because I don't look sick, I have no intentions of looking sick, but I'm fighting and thriving every day because I was strong in knowing that something wasn't right and that I was going to get answers. And now that I know what it is, you know better, you do better. I can't stay quiet about this because my silence could be the death of another young sister, and I refuse to have that on my heart. So I'm out loud, I'm on purpose, and I'm living.
Well, looks like you all got the range here. We got a 3, a 4, and I'm a 3C. For me, they initially thought that I was a stage 0, maybe a 1. And I was an ideal candidate for a procedure called IORT, intraoperative radiation therapy, where they remove the tumor, they administer radiation right on the table, and then that's it. No more radiation and no chemotherapy. And I thought, yes, because I ain't got time for cancer. I got stuff I need to do, places I need to go. You know, this is great. But after that first surgery, I was informed that the cancer spread beyond what the initial tests revealed. So I went from a 0, maybe a 1, all the way to a 3C. So an aggressive cancer that will require aggressive treatment that started with chemotherapy. And when I introduced myself, I talked about that numbness. My diagnosis was a complete surprise based on how I had been taking care of myself since high school. Never drank, never smoked, ate properly, exercised regularly. Cancer? And so when I made that decision of living by any means necessary, I meant that. One of the first things I did, I had a conversation with a bosom buddy, and she said to me, "Do you like blueberries, strawberries, and tomatoes?" And I said, "Yuck, yuck, and yuck." And she said to me, "Well, you need to be eating them because of their antioxidant properties." And I remembered, by any means necessary. So I taught myself how to eat blueberries, strawberries, and tomatoes. 1 strawberry and 5 blueberries for the first time took me 20 minutes. I kid you not. I hated it the whole time. I love blueberries. I love strawberries now. Now I'm kicking myself that I wasted all of those years not enjoying those things. Tomatoes and I still have a love-hate relationship, but that's for a different reason. But I made that change because although I was eating well, I can eat better. So I changed what I was eating, added some more things to my food repertoire. I changed what I stored my food in. I went from plastic to glass. And I'm a former teacher, so I'm always in that learning mode, that learning process. I'm still tweaking things. The cleaners in my home, I've changed all of that because some of the things that we are cleaning with, that we're using in our house, are actually making us sick. And what we don't know is literally killing us. And so that's one thing that I would want to share is that we've got to do better. We've got to be willing to get the information. Now, did I change everything to glass right away? No, because glass is expensive. But you start switching things out. I've switched my skincare products, my hair care products, my makeup products, all of that. And so we can do better. And for people who are in the audience that are living with cancer, I think part of the challenge is once you finish treatment and survivorship starts. Because some survivors, when they finish that, they're like, "Oh my goodness, I'm all done. Now let me go back to how I was eating before. Let me go back to those toxic relationships." No. We're already at a higher level of a recurrence. What I realize is that I am fighting cancer every day. with what I'm eating, not eating, drinking, not drinking, whether I'm exercising or not exercising, and the amount of stress that I allow in my life. So, well, hopefully we don't have any owners here, but like, what at Burger King is healthy for me? Maybe the salad. I don't know, because you put all that dressing on and you kind of, reverse all of that. But to understand the products that you're using and to understand that these are businesses that don't care about your waistlines. They care about their bottom lines. So we've got to know how to read labels. We've got to know about sugar and its effect on our bodies. So we've got to continually be able to know those things and to pass that on to the next generation. Because if we don't, this cycle will just continue. And my thing is, I made a decision that I'm in this until we're no longer having conversations about breast cancer.
I just wanted to touch really quick when you said the drinking thing. Now, I know we're in a culture where, get lit. Listen, my mom's not here. I've smoked hookah. I love a great vodka and cranberry, even though I heard that's an old drink, but whatever. I've drank it. But now research is showing that there's an incidence in breast cancer in young women by alcohol. So it's alcohol-induced breast cancer. So I'm just saying that to say, I'm 31, I'm not saying don't drink ever. But what I'm saying is, it's very important to watch binge drinking. So binge drinking just means drinking in a short course of time. So typically I don't drink, or we normally don't drink Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday. Friday you drink, Saturday you drink, maybe you drink after church on Sunday, I don't know. But that's categorized as binge drinking, and that can increase your risk of breast cancer. So think about those things. Listen, like I said, I'm 31, whatever, but it's really important. And think about smoking hookah. Listen, I've done it. I've done cranberry and, it's colorful. Oh, it looks good. Take a picture of me. I get it. But it's not healthy. And I just needed to point that out there. I'm not judging nobody. I've told my coworker, she was like, you work in radiation oncology. And I'm like, okay, my bad. So I get it. And it's not a judgment. This is a sisterhood. This is a judgment-free zone. But I can't be your sister and not tell you, to give you the resources and the tools. You can do it, and I'm going to say that's fine, but I'm going to provide that, hey, if you do it every weekend, can you cut back just a little bit for me? I'm not saying don't live, but you're looking at 3 young women who are fighting every day with breast cancer. Not every Tuesday, not every holiday, but every day. And the point is they're trying to prevent you from going through what they're going through. Just saying.
I want to open the Q&A. And so we have given you a lot this afternoon. It's a lot to absorb. It's a lot to think about. But we want to hear from you. And so I want to open the next 10 minutes for questions and answers from what we may be able to connect the dots for you. I don't want you to walk away from here today, and certainly we'll be present on the floor once I close out this panel in the next 10, 15 minutes. We will be present if you want to have a one-on-one conversation with any of us. But I don't want anyone to walk away from here today feeling like you had a question that went unanswered. And surely if none of us seated here can answer you, I guarantee that we will direct you to appropriate resources to get the answers that you need. So let's hear from you. I'm going to, while we're starting this session, can we give a round of applause? And I'm not going to put him on the spot, but I am going to put him on the spot. Ricky and Trudy. I will say, for those of you that know Ricky, those of you that have worked with Ricky, one of the things that I most admire about you, and I'm speaking directly to you, and I've said this to you, but I'm going to say it publicly to the room, is your humility. You are amazing, and I don't know if you had any idea when you had this in your head as a vision, when you and Trudy had a conversation that said, let's do this at MQ Factory. Let's put this Pink Summit on the map. You literally injected a mission to help save lives. And so for that, I thank you. All right, who has this microphone for the first question? Oh, we have an audience mic. Thank you.
Hey, my name is Shakia, and when you stated you changed your storing your food from plastic to glass, I never knew that, that was something that you needed to do. Why? Could you tell me why?
Especially if you are microwaving in plastic. So with that intensity of the heat, properties of the plastic are leaching into your food, and so you're consuming them. The BHA. So I know, even with water bottles, it'll say BPA free, that type of thing. So the best thing is to get stainless steel or a glass water bottle. So if you're using plastic, you certainly don't want to be microwaving in it. And so that's why, it's better to store things in glass to keep those extra chemicals out of your system. Anybody else want to add to that?
Well, okay. I was going to add, if you don't have the dollars and cents to switch everything over from plastic to glass, get you 2 or 3 good containers and use that to reheat your items in, right? And then go to Marshall's, Ross, TJ Maxx, raid their areas because they have that stuff for cheap, and get a little bit at a time. But again, just start with 1 or 2 and heat your items up in those glass containers. At least get away from microwaving plastics and drinking out of plastics. Get a glass container, stainless steel. It doesn't have to be Stanley, but it has to be something else.
And then I would also say 2 other things that you can do is use aluminum foil. And if you want to heat your food, put it in the oven. It's already in the aluminum foil, and you get rid of the microwave altogether. And the other thing is, stuff that you buy that comes in glass, keep the glass. Clean it out and reuse it. And I'll just say the problem with plastic is that it is in all of us. They are now revealing that there's residual plastic in our bloodstream, and we don't know what that's doing, but my guess is it's promoting inflammation and it's increasing the risk of all kinds of cancer. So really work hard to keep plastic outside of your body.
So a good resource to get information about not only plastics, but cosmetics, products, and things like that is ewg.org. You can go and get information about what's in your water even, what's in your cosmetic products, and that's the Environmental Working Group, ewg.org. I mean, and talking about plastic, it even includes going to the cleaners. So when I go to the cleaners, I don't bring the plastic into my house. I take that wrap off while I'm outside, throw it in the trash can, because those chemicals, you're bringing them into the house. And you have to think about your homes. A lot of times, we're not opening the windows, so those chemicals are just circulating. When you're using bleach and other harsh chemicals like that, those can be some of the things that are keeping you and members of your family ill.
Piggybacking off the chemical, 2022, a study came out in the Cellular Journal of Medicine, and they had conducted a study where they were looking at different types of mold spores. Now, I had been doing some research on mold spores that were found on foods that could induce kidney disease, and we talk about a lot of kidney disease in the Black community. And you have to think about packaged food. But this particular journal talked about mold and implemented it in certain types of cancer, ovarian cancer, breast cancer, all of these different things. So think about the environmental factors of what your home may have on your health. If there's mold behind your walls that you can't see and you're breathing those mold spores in, then we're talking about the impact that it can have on health, and specifically on the various organ systems, kidney health, liver health, your mental health, impacting your ability to concentrate and focus, breast health, ovarian health, uterine health when you're having children, how it's impacting the children and they're being born with certain ailments. So when we're talking about keeping plastics out of the body, you want to think about all the environmental factors of your home that can contribute to your health.
We're going to take one more question, and then we're going to officially close out this segment. But for those of you that have questions, please come see us in the room. We'll actually stay seated here for a little bit afterwards, so that if you have a question, you can come and chat with us. I'm going to take this question back here.
Okay, so while we're on the topic of talking about social and environmental factors that contribute to cancer, we have Ray Lewis here. She is a vegan culinary artist, and you wanted to talk a little bit about nutrition and health, wellness.
Hello, everyone. Let me actually give myself some space. What's up? How y'all feeling? My name is Ray. As she said, I am a vegan chef. So while you guys were just, I can hear my echo. While you guys were talking about the benefits of health, go up front. Okay. We good? Okay. Here's good. Okay. It is very important to just eat right. I am a vegan chef, like I said, so I've been doing this since 2017, primarily plant-based. I do not cook with the processed foods, your Beyond Meats and different things like that. Really take a natural, whole food approach to how I live, how I eat, how I treat my customers, what people really get from me. So when we're talking about cancer, we're talking about cancer causing agents. A lot of that stuff is in our food, is in our processed meats, whether it's the vegan meats or your deli meats, your hoagie meats, different things like that. It's in our hot dogs. It's in our hams. All of these things are cancer-causing agents. All of these things can be switched out with more natural foods, more of your legumes, your beans, your whole grains, your white rices. If you transfer and use barley or farro or brown rice, these things are all better for us. They help us just mentally, physically, emotionally, how we were saying. Food also has a direct effect on that, but also has a direct effect on our diseases, what we're putting into our body, how they're coming out, what they're doing inside of our body. Like Doctor said earlier, playing on those genes, playing on those DNAs in our body. All of these things are very important. There are a number of resources just to help people eat better and live better. I'm one of them. I'm happy to answer any questions after this, but I did just want to point out that everything these women up here are saying, especially about nutrition, is very, very important, not just for breast cancer, but just overall. Diabetes, these are food-causing diseases. They're not caused by anything else but food. They are direct relative to our diets, and then which is also a direct relative to how we treat people, how we feel, all of those things. When it comes to healthy eating, I always tell people, like, they're like, well, how do you do it? How do I become vegan? I like this, I like that, I don't want to give up this. I'm not going to tell you not to eat meat, because there's also some benefits in eating meat, but it's also about where you're getting your stuff, how it's produced, where it came from. We live on the East Coast. We don't live near water, so where are we getting these things from? Where's the markets that you're shopping from? Where are they getting their things from? All of these things are important. And also, when it comes to this, you're going to sacrifice something, right? If you're looking at the foods that you're typically eating, it's easy, it's a go-to, whatever, you might be sacrificing your health. So where you can replace some of that time and learning and educating yourself on different things, you could also, take those same sacrifices and what we're used to and change them to different things. So that was my two pieces.
Thank you for that contribution. Thank you all for being part of today's conversation. I'm going to turn this back over to Trudy at this time. Thank you to everyone that you see in a PinkMission Summit shirt here representing MQ Factory. Each and every one of you are fabulous at what you do, and we thank you for your kindness in that.
Hello, beautiful black people. Hello, beautiful black people. Give it up for our panel, our beautiful black queens. Thank you so much. As a token of our appreciation, we at the MQ Factory would like to present you with your roses now, not while you're on the ground. How are you guys feeling? Don't sound like it. That's good, that's good, that's good. So as we close out the panel, we are going to break down for the photo shoot session of our event. We have food back there, we have drinks. I don't know if it's spiked or not, but this is a health and wellness event, so stay away from the spike stuff. Be sure to check out the resource vendors. You know, everyone that's here is here to provide information, not just about, you know,